lead us into this.
Ready? We are recording. Oh, how was that?
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect
gosh,
clap.
dang. Okay. So, the seed goat's back.
Yep.
Randall gave you. So, Joe, if you've listened to the podcast, any of the last few, you probably saw the one with Heathman. Anyway, full transparency, Heathman is my seed dealer, and yeah, and he's my neighbor.
Yep.
And we celebrate victories together, and then we cry when everything falls apart.
Which is kind of where we're at right now.
We're tearing up.
We're on the brink of it.
We are tearing up. Yeah, we have escaped catastrophe. How many times this year?
I think we're up to 12. I think I don't know.
I was going to say
at
three.
least a dozen.
But yeah.
Depends on what you
Windstorms,
rate catastrophe
missed hail,
as.
hit hail, little hail, almost flood, little flood,
Tornado at Bazaar.
no flood, tornado.
Yep.
Green snap.
Snap.
Straight line winds.
We had a little slight flood at Bazaar that kind of went through some corn, but we're okay now.
Flood on the river, little one.
Yeah, real slight flood. To the point now where we've got beans dying. Corn's firing, which, kind of that thing.
We're used to that.
Yeah, we're used to that. That's nothing new for us. But
can't believe corn made it this long.
2 years in a row, mid-July, and we've got beans dying. That we thought we were in good shape a month ago, and we were in good shape a month ago. But
we've got amazing rains this year.
Yes,
amazing rains.
It's been like almost, if you classify us as irrigated, we would be right there on the brink of that.
About every time you're like, boy, a nice inch of rain right now would be good.
Yeah.
Next 48 hours, we're getting rain.
Yeah, and it's got to the point where it just shut off. So we're backing these rain chances off every day. You get a little bit closer. The noon report comes out, and it's like, oh, it's looked good. 5 o'clock rolls around. Oh, yeah, we were wrong. And we've done that every time there's been a chance of rain for the last 2 weeks.
Is it Thursday? Okay.
Yep,
it's Thursday. It's Thursday, and we got chances this weekend.
Yep.
You said don't look good.
No, it doesn't. They keep getting it.
But dude, I'm telling you, one of the greatest feelings out there for a farmer outside the bedroom is when I get that text from Heathman that says things are looking a little better.
Yeah.
Like they bumped it up, actually. The new model.
Yep.
Anyway, and I'm waiting for that text.
I don't want to get too excited. There's been a couple times where I look at my weather data and I'm like, hey, Josh, and I just delete the text because I'm like, I'm not quite comfortable with sending that out
I
yet.
love that. See, I don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
No, we can't change it.
No, we can't do anything about
Unless
it.
we go turn all the wind turbines on to the southwest. Then it'd change the pattern.
Yeah, it would.
So but that's government conspiracy, and we can't drag that.
We'd be.
You know who I got asked today to bring on the podcast?
Who's that?
Spencer.
Yes. That would be intriguing. I would listen to that.
I don't think he'd do it unless he wore a mask.
Probably not. No.
Yeah.
He'd do kind of one behind a curtain. The man behind the curtain, like Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
That's Spencer.
It's pulling the strings.
Yeah.
But no, so we wanted to do 2 podcasts. We had a lot of requests for podcasts about deer plots, then land management,
Yep.
and we're both farmers and we're both deer hunters. And how do we implement that into our farming lives and our farming lives into our deer hunting lives? And then we've also had some requests for, and it's also just come up in conversation. So we're both in our 30s now. We're not young men. I say young in their 20s now. We're definitely not old men, but we have seen, and there's going to be some older guys that are probably going to scoff at this, but I mean, I can't accelerate my age and be older than I am. I'm not going to pretend to be that way. So how do we, we have both seen a really up market, record highs, and we've seen, at least in our farming history, the time we've been doing it low, So I've sold corn in the $2 range, and I know there's a lot of farmers out there that have sold corn for a lot cheaper than that. Yeah. But for the 13 years I've been farming, that's my low point, and then I've sold almost $8 corn.
Yeah.
So
that's something you talk about doing it 13 years. I started helping Dad come back from college in like 2009, I think it was. I ended up dropping out of school to become a farmer. But yeah, 2009, we talked about weather, and I remember all the weather patterns that we had through there, plus the markets. and how they correlate. And just like you can't guess
that was
the
coming
weather.
into a good phase.
Yeah, we were coming into a good
drought.
phase. Yeah, well, 2009, 2010 were really wet years. And then 11 was one of the hottest years on record, leading into 2012, which was a complete and utter disaster for everybody. But the markets were good, kind of similar to last year. We had an utter disaster with complete failures, but the markets were good. Now they're tailing off. We're kind of in that mid zone where we might not have very good beans. The markets aren't very good. It's one of those years. It doesn't happen very often, but it will happen. Looking back, I don't remember very many years where we had awesome crops and poor prices, or I guess that's the other way around.
The home run year.
Yeah, the home run year. But
wheat was good.
Weird. Yeah, wheat was really good.
But you never expect that. That's
Yeah.
totally blindsides you in the face.
Yeah, we worked so hard to have good wheat, and the year we don't plant very much wheat was the record year. You can't outguess it.
No. But we learned an awful lot. Lot. What I learned this year on my wheat. I can't remember if I've done a podcast. I don't think we've done a podcast since I cut the cabin.
I don't know if we have or not.
Aaron, do you know? I don't know. You don't remember? Okay, so the cabin's a field that I've been testing all along. Haney testing. And same spot, watching my nutrient levels. That's the one I applied no urea, no 28 or anything to. And we cut it. It's the best wheat of my life, 87.6. I got right there on the board. Yeah. And best, like I said, that's farm average, field average, best wheat we've ever cut in the history of our operation. 81 was before, and that was on the 107 property.
And we're not talking like 5 acre patches. We're talking bigger.
No,
fields.
50 acres.
This is
50 acres or more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good farm average.
Yeah. And so, I had one foliar application and 150 pounds of dry humic last fall that Bean put on. And, now, is that something I've had a lot of guys ask me, is that something you're going to do wide scale now? No, I'm not going to do that wide scale because I think that'd be playing Russian roulette with a six cylinder and 6 shells in it.
Yeah. Well, and you got to think about it is not all your farms have been managed the way the cabin has.
Correct.
You have highly managed that. It's right here close. You can keep an eye on it. Whereas if you have a field 15 miles away, no, it's a little risky. You want to take care of it the way you know how, that you know works.
Right.
Highly manage the ones you can take care of close.
Sure.
And then put them on a broad scale.
Well, and it's, and people, I've had a couple landlords in the past, not on this one, ask me, well, how come my wheat didn't do that as good as, or so on and so forth. And oftentimes they just, they aren't aware that we had different weather events. You don't have to go only a couple miles and you can completely change weather patterns.
Oh, yeah.
Last year the river was killer corn and the creek was terrible.
Yep.
The year before it was completely swapped. The creek was insane. It was killer, and the river just sucked.
Yep.
But so the cabin, like I said, so that was probably one of my most profitable crops this year. And I had wheat in the 50s, 50 bushels down the river. Anywhere from 50, 52 was my lowest, up to up to 80, 87, almost 88, but lots of 50s, some 60s. Mm-hmm. But it really taught me that I needed to pay attention to my dirt more than I was paying attention to my dirt. And that I didn't know as much as I thought, which anymore, ever since, I don't know, kind of got in my 30s and started learning under Ben, I've just kind of come to accept that, one, I don't make as much difference as I thought I made. Yeah. And two, there's a whole lot more in play here than just myself.
Correct.
And we both kind of walked this journey, I don't want to say together, but very similarly, learning things. I mean, we plant same hybrids, both strip till, we got liquid in the planter, we both do side dress, and saying we're, farming very similar ground.
And the thing about it is we've been open to learning. Looking back, something that I would love to have known 15 years ago, be open to some learning. What may not be the best way.
Sure.
Be open to learning. And if there's a new practice or a new technique out there that's being, applied somewhere near you, try to learn what they're doing. See what worked for them and why they ended up down the path they're on now.
Yeah.
And that's something I just was so close-minded, 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, to a lot of this stuff, just because, one, I wasn't well educated enough in this example, the humics, the biologicals, the food for the plant. I didn't know enough about that 10 years ago to be, educated enough on it, make decisions. Whereas I am now, looking back, I would tell myself, study a little bit more, take into account these odd things that guys are trying, because they may not be so odd when it comes down to it.
Well, in questioning, I think oftentimes we find ourselves asking ourselves, why that spot in the field? Why that spot in the field? And in my 20s, I wouldn't really spend much time thinking about it. I might look at a soil test and, it's got high phosphorus. That's got to be the answer to it.
Yep.
When in reality, it might be just because it drains better.
Yeah, it might be a wet spot. It might be a bowl.
It might be a bowl.
Just something that might hold water for 3 or 4 days longer that you can't see from the highway, but you notice it when you harvest.
Yeah.
And you can soil test that all you want, and it's going to say you're low this or high this, but if it doesn't drain well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
so I don't know, my 30-year-old self talking to my 20-year-old self, and maybe this is only, if this really only, one person gains from this, it would be question things a little more. Make sure you have a reason for what you're doing. And then I don't know, it was so much fun. And it's still fun. It's still fun, but now we kind of step back and think about things a little bit more. You get married.
We've got a lot more responsibilities at this point in our life.
You buy property, you get land payments, so on and so forth. You get more risk.
Yeah. Use those times in your 20s to learn, and that way when you hit your 30s, you're 10 steps ahead of everybody else.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But the term throw the book at, let's throw the book at something. And the cabin, that's where I was going with this. The cabin taught me that throwing the book isn't the reason for yield all the time. Can it increase yield? Yes, it absolutely can. Will it make the yield every time? No. Why did the cabin do that? And Ben and I have talked about that. He couldn't make it up for podcasting today, but he told me, he's like, dude, do not think that not applying nitrogen on that field is going to work on the next field. And he's like, just don't go into this not thinking that. Just, this is a coincidence, and continue and start fresh and learn again.
Yep. Take what you know on that field and maybe try to apply it somewhere else. Do a little learning. Take the steps that you took to learn how that field reacted to certain situations.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll lead you into another path for another field.
Yeah.
Something that might give you direction for the next process that you're going to take.
Well, and it's, guys are like, well, why can't you duplicate that again? I'm not saying we can't. I'm not going to take what I did on 50 acres and take it to 500.
No, I don't think
that's suicidal.
It's very
potentially.
Dangerous. Yeah.
Why did we have such a great wheat? Everyone had good wheat.
Yeah.
There wasn't anyone that had bad wheat this year.
And then
we had a perfect spring.
You'd look back on me and you, we've been trying to hit 100 bushel wheat for however long. It's just been a goal of ours.
You got darn close.
I got close. Dad hit
98?
98, yeah. But like I said, Dad had 106 on a field. I mean, it come out amazing. But you and I both know why. It had manure, and it was just well-maintained dirt. Yeah. But you just got to take that into consideration that this was such a good wheat year. It doesn't feel as good, hitting those big marks when everybody's doing it and they're not even trying.
Yeah.
We
because that happened.
It happened a lot this year.
Yeah. There's guys that literally don't try at all, and they hit 70 bushel wheat this year.
Took the drill out, planted 2 bushel the acre, threw some nitrogen on, and 85 bushel wheat. It's like, man, I lost a lot of sleep trying to get where I'm at, and they just didn't even try.
I know. So, and Ben talks about it a lot. Sometimes the more we try, the more we fail.
Yeah.
That we are our biggest stumbling block, and that a lot of times a crop will spend most of its growing season trying to reverse what you did to it.
Yep.
And
I think that's part of the reason why you and I both haven't walked out into our contest spots in our corn yet. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it till the combine rolls through it. It looks good.
Get our hopes up.
Yeah, I mean, you walk out there and you're thinking, my gosh, look at the ears.
Yeah.
And you're like, what could the potential be? And then you get out through the combine, you're disappointed.
Well, last year, last year, my contest field was a total another. By the way, all y'all, you are looking at Seed Goat Heathman is the reigning king of the East Kansas district of corn growers competition.
It was a lot of fun and it was a lot of stress. And I told myself last year after I did that, I'm like, I'm done.
I'm sitting in the presence of greatness.
It
feels pretty good.
I was a good student. You and Ben taught me a lot and told me what to try to do and what to look for, and I just took it and applied it. So
I'm telling you, I tell guys, I don't like telling. I try not to tell anyone what to do. I just try to tell people everything I've done that I regret doing or what worked. And I hope that's just the case the rest of my life. I listened to a talk not that long ago, and someone was speaking, and they were very, very high on themselves. They were very expressive that what they were doing was right.
Yeah.
And that if it wasn't working for you, you were the reason it wasn't working. And I don't know. Some people that resonates with them. Yeah. But I think most farmers, that does not resonate with them. And I don't know. I hope I'm being pretty vague about this. So no one can really point as to who that might have been. And I would bet $100 that person has never listened to this podcast. So if you're listening to this podcast, rest assured it's not you. But anyway, this guy was talking about this, how he's implemented things, and I'm sitting there, and you know what? It's worked for him. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah,
and that's cool, and he's doing amazing things. But it was the delivery, and Aaron has been an unfortunate recipient of my rough learning curve of learning how to deliver better. It's worked both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's had to learn to be more patient, that I'm saying what I'm trying to say. I'm just not saying it in the most efficient way.
Well, and that's a learning experience that I had to take, because I felt
then
like...
we can talk about working with our dads.
Yeah, well, yeah, I had to learn how to... I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew how to do this, and... we brought Ben into the picture, and I'm thinking, how does a Western Kansas guy, where it's drier than heck, how does he know what's going on? I know he's got irrigated, but how does he know what is right for me? So I kind of was skeptical. I went with it. I thought,
same.
We'll see what happens. Well, every time we end up talking about something, I hate stroking Ben's ego, but
he won't. I doubt he listens to this.
Good.
He's got a half-mile pivot full of cow crap now.
But every time we talk about something that he has told us to do or something that he recommended to us, we're skeptical at first. We do it, and either you text me or I text you and say,
"Gosh, dang it,
Ben was right.
It worked."
But
it's because he's tried it.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned to be a little bit more accepting to situations like that or advice like that. There are people that deliver it in the way that you spoke of, but there are people that, if they're quietly giving advice or they're not as adamant about, hey, you need to do this, you probably ought to listen, because they're not full of themselves, but they know what they're doing.
Sure.
So you need to listen.
Well, unlike the cabin, I mean, there were people that were like, okay, I raised wheat that was as good as that. Woohoo. I'm like, well, it wasn't, I wasn't going for a yield goal this year, much to my dad's dismay. He was like, that was the field that could have broke 100 bushel. It might have. Yeah. I don't know. But I wanted to see what could the field produce with just putting on what the field said it needed.
Limited inputs. And
I have the test over there in the binder. I pulled another Haney test after the wheat was cut. I had 37.9 pounds of nitrogen available in February. I had 36.9 available in May. And I'm like, okay, technically we have enough nitrogen to finish this crop. And dude, I think I talked about this, I almost pulled the trigger. Stroberg. He's like, I was honest, dude, I'm going to go run a little bit. Don't do it. He's like, you're going to cave now? You're going to cave now.
He brought you back down to earth, didn't
he? He did. Hey, I got to give Stroberg some credit. And he's like, granted, he's like, you're going to let me down. you're going to let us all down. You're just going to cave. And, I'm like, okay. And I didn't do
There's
it.
a lot of people riding on what you did. I mean, trying to figure out if we could do it.
Well, and it's tough because it's like, what if that's 60 bushel wheat?
You're taking everything
And
you
I could have
knew.
been 27 bushels in the hole.
Yep.
It's $6 wheat.
You took everything you thought you knew, threw it out the window, tried a complete new practice, and it worked.
And this is absolutely not a pat on the back. I really want this to only be a learning lesson to people, because this was, and I've tried to be transparent. This was just a student experience. All right, I'm just going to sit here and do what it says. That's it. You can't, there's no credit here that no one takes a lot of credit. Oh, I did nothing. We usually it's the opposite of, hey, I did this, 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 and this, and it worked. It's like, no, actually, I didn't do much, and it did that. So it's kind of like, okay, back to ground zero. What is this capable of? What else is capable?
Yeah.
Kind of like Osage.
Yeah.
Last year, dude drove me up a wall. I pull in there with the combine. Heathen goes, "Is farm I bought?" And Heathen's like, "That's better dirt than you think it is." I'm like, "Shut up." He's like, "It's better dirt than you think it is." I'm like, dude, I'm tired of hearing this. It's not. Anyway, we get back in there. It was first time I've seen my yield monitor touch 300 on corn. It was this little tiny spot, and I'm like, dude. He's like, "Oh, I freaking told you."
Well, and that's just something I've gained in the last 15 years of just observing. Just not dismissing something. You see something that happens so good on your yield monitor, and you're like, well, try to figure out why. Why did that spot do so well? We talked about why did that spot do so poorly? Why did that spot do so well? And you start taking into account of, okay, what's the surroundings like? We're on Osage. You get into that north pocket. Hot wind can't get there. You're surrounded. It's got its own climate situation going on there.
Decades of flood have dumped extra topsoil there.
Backs in there, settles out. Backs in there and settles out. A lot of years of that.
Yeah.
And you start trying to apply that field to field, and you look for those spots. You try to find those spots in those fields where you could be in a huge yield potential. Now, the poor yield spots, they'll stand out. You'll find them pretty quick. Dry spell like we're in, first place to show problems is the problem areas. They'll burn up. They'll be dead, basically.
Yeah.
You'll know those before you get in the combine.
Yep.
Now, you roll a combine through there, you get into a little pocket, a little valley, somewhere you're just like, man, it looks good. You start combining, you're seeing 250, 300. You're like, okay, this is where it's at. This is awesome. This is a lot of fun.
It is.
It's no fun seeing stuff die.
And then you get out of the pocket.
Then you get out of the pocket to the dead stuff. But
the pocket is the month of August.
Yeah.
Month of promise.
So
and September is a month of reality. That's everything outside the pocket.
Take your years and just observe. Be observant. You can learn a lot more by taking 10 steps back and just looking. Mm-hmm. Walking through your field. You always hear about guys saying, go take a walk through your field. You'll learn a lot. There's a whole lot of truth to that. And same thing goes with stepping back, taking a breather, and just looking at things. You can learn a whole lot from your fields. So
yeah. I don't know. That's one thing. I would tell my 20-year-old self is I paid more attention to yield than I did markets. And I'm sorry if you're trying to hit a new farm record. And I talked to someone we both know, that he's part of a farm. It's Bean. It's not you. I know Bean's going to text me as soon as
it is not.
Is that Bean? It's not Bean.
It is not Bean.
I was talking to another guy, a little bit younger than us, but older than Bean, in his mid-20s. And so, what'd you first? He was asking me questions about corn, and they're getting ready to run. They were going to run fungicide, and they were wanting to throw everything at the crop. Just throw it all. One of the best corn crops I think we've ever had. That's what he told me. That's what the other people in his family operation were saying. And I was like, okay, what'd you fertilize for? We fertilized for 180 bushel corn across. He's going to know exactly who he is now. He's going to text me.
Yeah.
Oh, that was me. 180 bushel corn across the farm. I'm like, it's fertilizer? Yeah. Okay. And how many times do you hit that? We've never hit it. Like, oh.
Why are you striving for it if you never hit it, though?
Okay. Well, yeah, but I mean, how many times do we used to do that?
That's exactly right.
Right.
We were trying to shoot for the moon, and even though we knew it was out of reach.
Yeah.
If
we hit it, it's probably not a fertilizer thing.
Yeah.
If we don't hit it, what did it cost us?
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty open about this. I don't know, with all of our guys in the company and whatnot, but it's this year I tried to take a very safe approach, and that if I had 130 bushel farm average all the way across, I mean, it was going to be a very profitable year. It would be just solid. Now, there's guys on here like, I can't even pay rent with 130 bushel corn. Where I'm at in Kansas, in my operation, dryland farming, so on and so forth, where it will rain and then it will stop raining, just like it has right now.
Yeah.
So, where is my safe line, my profitable line, and then where does risk really start to ramp up?
Hey guys, Ben and Josh here. We've been doing a blog once a month, kind of help us express out exactly how we work through problems on a monthly basis. And
it's pretty real life. It's dealing with real life problems on the farm. Typically, it's a vent session in short form. So, you want to check it out? Links in the description.
So your 23.5 is what I've been planting at. You were talking lower populations. I was scared to death to drop it. And then they got a weather report that came out and said, hey, hot, dry summer. I'm like, okay, touch a button. We're going down to 20,000. No more of this 23.5, 24,000. But then I got into my better dirt. I'm like, I can't do this. 26, back it.
But that's less risk.
Yeah, where
good
it's at.
dirt's less risky.
Where it was at, I felt comfortable doing that. But a lot of my ground, I ended up having so much extra seed corn.
Is that in the bottom?
Yeah.
Dude, I drove by that yesterday. It's so beautiful.
It's exciting. Like I said,
so beautiful.
I have not.
I'm gonna go. I'm just.
You go walk it
out
for
there.
me and let me know what
you
you
go
think.
walk mine.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just being comfortable, lowering your expectations. Being sure, not necessarily sure, but being okay dropping it back and knowing what your potential might be. But you start figuring some stuff like we're at this year with the corn as good as it looks right now. 20,000 is pretty good. You can make some money at 20,000. So, why not?
Yeah.
You can make money.
Well, you can save. You're talking 20,000 pop?
Yeah, 20,000
pop. Yeah, you
pop.
can save quite a lot.
You can save a lot of money and you still have good potential.
And you need to do your research on your hybrids.
Correct.
We just filmed a bunch of stuff yesterday about hybrid selection.
You need to have flex. You need to have flex.
And at least in our area.
Yeah, in our area, flex is critical.
It is. So I've got a piece of ground. I farm just a mile down the road, and it's pretty. This one field is pretty poor dirt. It's not bad, but it's definitely not good. Plant 15,000 pop, shooting for 120 bushel corn, and that was the goal. I was not shooting for 170 bushel corn if it rained. I was shooting for 120 bushel corn. Put the inputs in it for 100 bushel corn, and if we hit 100 bushel, this was our profit margin, and that's what I was shooting for. And it's pretty tough, dude. It's hard because everyone seems like judges you for, well, how come you didn't shoot for more? And so we both have reversed from yield being our goal to profit minded.
Let's make money.
Yeah. And how can we be a good land steward? How can we, what amount of risk do we want to take? And then what's our downside and our upside?
Yep.
So it's one of those things where, and like the cabin, Dad, why didn't you push it? Well, I didn't want to see how much I could raise on this field. We always seem to try to do that. How much can that field produce when the soil has gotten to a point where it's cycling well, and what can our max ROI be? It was stupid high. I had like $38 in that.
Yeah, I'd like to see what your comparison would be if you would have managed it like you did everything else versus the lack of management, or I guess lack of management isn't the way to say it, but you got that ground in such good shape. There's a little bit of time or a little bit of money involved there, but I'd like to see a side-by-side of how you put the nitrogen on other fields versus obviously no nitrogen there.
Mile down the road made 83.5.
Yep.
But it's not quite as good a dirt. I haven't worked on it quite as long as that.
So there's a learning process of, where can we do this?
Right.
Where,
when, to what extent.
Yep.
And so I've started to really, and it takes, people ask me, what's your yield goal? Well, in a down market, it's not going to be so romantically high. Yeah. It's not, I'm not going to fight it in 180. People are, oh, dang, that's pretty, dang, that guy shoot for big yield.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well,
I don't know. How about we shoot for, let's make $100 an acre. If I can make $100 an acre on every acre I farm, it'd be a very successful year.
Yep.
It'd be great. You know, it would actually historically be one of the better years net profit on my operation than we've had in the last 10 years.
Isn't that why we do it? We're farming to make money.
Well,
I mean,
that is a great question.
But
yes.
Can guys put their egos aside of saying, hey, I had the best yield of the county? We always think about it or talk about it. You and I do. I wonder what their return on investment was.
Yeah.
They may have had 60, 70 bushel beans or, 200 bushel corn. I wonder how much money they had tied up in that.
Right.
It was a good feeling. Last year, we talked about the corn contest. The inputs I had in that, I think, was 60 units of nitrogen up front, followed by another 50 at top dress, so 110 units of nitrogen. That was it. 250 bushel corn, running 300 across the yield monitor. That dirt is healthy.
Is that 0.4? That's 0.4 something pounds per bushel.
That dirt is
under a half a pound.
It's super healthy. And now, granted, that is the absolute best spot in that field. You get up in the top ground where it had the same exact management. We were running 110, 120 bushel. But I wasn't out as much money.
Sure.
110 units of nitrogen is pretty affordable.
Yeah.
And when you're getting that kind of yield in the bottom, it makes the whole field look good. Whole field average 135.
Yeah.
I'll take that all day long on those inputs.
Right.
So.
Right. Based on the input into the crop.
Yep.
Yeah. And so it's funny because this is something that I would tell my younger self that I've learned from the agronomy side. I used to think that on my good dirt, I'll put more into it because we have more potential there. Yep. When actually I have reversed that thought process.
You say your younger self. I say myself a year ago. I wasn't very long
sure.
ago. I was
A year ago, I did the same thing.
I've
got the maps that I sent to the co-op to top dress to prove it. And I have reversed that around because of things like the cabin that taught me, I really need to learn here. Okay, the good dirt is generally our higher nutrients, better cycling soil. That
it's a healthy.
It's a good spot. It's
a healthy
always
ecosystem.
the good spot in the field.
Yep.
Okay, you ask yourself why. And so was it something I did, or is it a good spot in the field because it's cycling properly? So we start looking at soil balance, and we're gonna do some podcasts with Johnny coming up about cycling soil nutrients and soil balances, and and really dive into the dirt side. And so, okay, maybe I'm going to do less nitrogen in the good spots, and I'm going to do a little more in the tough spots. You kind of reverse that around a little bit. Well, find out the higher magnesium levels in the soil, the harder it is for nitrogen to work with your plants. So, okay, man, it's really helped my management. I have not seen a yield drag at all. I've seen a yield increase, putting a little more into my poor dirt and taking off inputs on my good dirt.
Yeah.
And that's just been very eye-opening. I wish I would have known that 10 years ago.
For sure. And that's one thing I wish I would have educated myself better trying to make myself observe a little bit more sooner, because we've noticed that for years.
We have.
We knew the good ground just does good.
Yeah.
We talked here, I think it was a year ago, about how our, nutrients, if you do a grid sample, we've taken a lot of good crops off this one specific spot. Your phosphate part per million was, let's just say 15 for a number's sake. You've pulled 10 years of crops off of that, and you go and grid sample it again. What's your phosphate part per million? 15. So where did that phosphate go? It's been using it. The soil's been producing it. It's healthy. It's doing what it should. And I wish I knew 10 years ago all of this that we're learning here in the last 3. There's so much to learn.
Better than learning it in our 60s, though.
Yeah, and it's been coming at us like a fire hose.
It has.
It's taken me some time to learn it and grasp it, and I'm slowly getting there. You guys have done it a lot more here in the last year than I have, but I'm slowly getting there, and I'm the type of person, once I get it, it's in there like a lockbox, and I know what to do and how to utilize it best for my operation.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. Yield is not worth the romance in most cases.
It feels good.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Your pocketbooks might be a little lighter.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, my favorite question to ask a farmer when he gets kind of puff chested is, about production or whatever, because I used to be that guy. I said, well, what's your ROI per acre? Everyone knows their yield.
Yep.
Well, this yielded.
Like
Well, what was your return on investment on this acre?
Yep.
Dude, no one knows. No
No,
one has a clue.
they don't have a
a
clue.
freaking clue.
very few farmers know how to put a budget together.
Yeah.
You know, they just know what it costs. They pay the bill. They don't see, the bill, what it's for. They just run through it, get it paid, get it out the door.
Yeah.
And they couldn't tell you what it was for or why they paid it. There's a lot of them like that.
It's true.
It's kind of disappointing, but
It is. So that's what I would tell my younger self is pencil out a budget and look at it.
Yep.
And take it to someone you trust and put it out in front of them.
Yep.
Because, take someone that's 10 years older than you, 20, 30, 40, 50 years older than you. And this is something, my dad used to, when I was younger, in my early 20s, I was bumping we were both bumping population.
Mm-hmm.
What would 26,000 do? 27, 28, 30, 32.
Never.
Maybe it passed one past the 36 and we'll flag it and keep an eye on it.
it never really did much different.
Didn't.
We hit our peak at 26 and
But if it rained and everything was perfect,
Yep.
we were going to be the first ones to hit 300 bushel corn. And
yeah, there was then it was never ending on what we could do next.
Right.
We were trying to do this, trying to do that, and it was just never ending.
Well, and that's what companies make their profit on is
The hopes. Hope.
Yeah, the hope. And well, so on and so, another guy did it.
Yeah.
David Hula hit 600 bushel corn, and I'm not saying he didn't earn it.
Yeah, for sure.
He's David Hula, man.
Okay, you take that 600 bushel corn and then the yield contest you and I are doing, it is not easy.
No.
It is an absolute stressful situation. I don't enjoy it.
No.
It's not much fun, and them guys, my hat is off to them because it is a lot of work.
It is an insane amount of work and stress.
Yeah.
In the lot of, you don't realize the difference in a 20 bushel, 100 to 120 bushel corn is not a big swing. 200 to 220 is a much larger swing than 100 to 120.
Yeah.
And people say it's 20 bushel either way. I know it is. The numbers are the same, but
You're trying to stretch that peak out even
getting
further.
there is it's because everyone has an average cap. I mean, you get 10 guys around here, farmers, and you ask all of them, hey, what's a good respectable corn yield? Just that right there. I bet 10 farmers in our area, I bet they'd all be within a 20 bushel range. I'm going to say, what would you say? I got a number in my head.
Okay, so if you're saying for an average year, what would I expect for corn?
Average year, what's your what are you shooting for? What do you on pretty good dirt? What do you think you're kind of? That's what I'm going to be around.
I'd like to see anywhere from 135 to 150.
150 was my number.
Yep. That's if I make 135 to 150, I'm happy. I go home and I don't lose an ounce of sleep over it. Now, if I'm under 130, I think, did I screw up?
Yeah.
What did I do? If I hit over 150, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's a good feeling.
And we have many times.
Exactly. There's been a lot of fields where we do well on. There's a lot of fields we do poor on, but they were all learning experiences one way or another. So
yeah, so you've kind of got, and I have learned that that's more of a regional. I don't want to say a cap, a regional bar.
yeah.
And where, if you hit that, everyone's like,
It's also a generational thing.
It is.
50 years ago, it might even be 25 years ago. 120 bushel corn was kind of the peak for this area.
It was
the peak. Guys, if you hit 130, you were doing something right. And now if you do 120, you're thinking, man, that's the top.
Dad was telling me a couple weeks ago, the first time he hit 160 bushel corn, and it was over by Cottonwood.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because he remembers how quickly the trucks and the grain cart filled up. He's like, they were just, I'd make a round and it was full and I'm dumping and I'd make another and it was full. And And that was what was really the defining, like, gosh, I remember when I hit 160.
And I think that was the feeling this year for wheat too. You know, guys were going and it's just like, I can't make it to the end of the field and I'm full.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling because we haven't seen it before.
No.
So you just don't know how to feel or how to think.
Yeah.
Just
You don't want to get too wound up because you hope the next field's that way.
Yeah, you're thinking.
It? I don't know. Get in there. Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But so that's the bar. So say 100, 140. Let's split the difference. Let's say 140 bushel corn, dry land here. 140 bushel corn. So I can't remember where I was going with that.
Did your brain just go poof?
It did. It's gone. 140 bushel corn is 140 bushel corn is the respectable kind of average bar. So, say in Iowa, say it's two. I hear a lot of guys say two to 220.
Yeah.
Okay, so us going from 140 to 180 is, man, the higher you go, the harder it gets to get there. And that's why we don't break those high numbers that often. And ours is climate.
Yeah,
we have great soil.
It's 100% climate. You know, our potential like a week ago was stupid high.
Yeah,
stupid.
And in
high.
1 week.
And now we're just thinking, well, hopefully we can salvage 120. You know, we go from looking at 200 bushel corn to like, well, hopefully 120 catches it.
1 week.
You know, 7
We're
days.
dropping leaves, pineapple corn.
We had 3 inches of rain 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, 3 inches of rain. And now we're burning up.
Yes.
You know, it's unreal.
It's life of the West.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
It really is. I mean, we were over 100 degrees and 35-mile-an-hour winds.
That doesn't take long.
We call it the blowtorch.
When the blowtorch sets in July and August, you just start counting your days. Like, well, if we can make it a few more days.
We're buying a day. Literally, it's like, okay, like today's cooler, little overcast. What's this? Is this going to buy us another 48 hours of slowed down yield loss?
Because we're what did we say yesterday? Milk to dough.
Yeah.
So it's critical right now. We're setting our test weight. We're trying to get this finished.
Yeah. These ears they're going to start shrinking real fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so like I'd say the Iowa guy. Oh, by the way, I'm supposed to give Iowa a shout out.
Okay.
There's certain guy. My phone's dead sitting over there in the corner. Otherwise, I'd get to pull the name up. There's a guy in Iowa I talked to. Really enjoyed talking to that guy. I can't remember his name. Actually, he didn't even tell me his name. I had to go and ask someone who asked someone to tell me, to figure out who it was. I had to describe who it was, what they were wearing, where they were sitting. And I found out the guy's name. But anyway, he's like, man, why don't you give Iowa some credit? Here's your credit, dude.
Yep.
All right, we're good. Now, but so in Iowa, their 200 to 220 is our 130 to 150.
Yep.
And it's just, and so many people bash Iowa or Illinois or Indiana, the I states. They bash on them like, that's the I states. Man, they have problems up there that, totally different than what we fight.
Yep.
Totally different disease set. 5 times the cash rent. Yep. So many things just compound and compound and compound. So they've got their own set of struggles.
Yeah, they do.
And so we're sitting here, 130 to 150 is our kind of average here. There's 200 to 220, and that's pretty happy with that. Mm-hmm. And then you've got those years. So the Iowa guys, I say Iowa, we got a lot of friends in Iowa now because of this whole thing we've started. But so I pick on Iowa just because I know I got some really good friends there. I got some really good friends in Iowa that I've learned so much from.
Yep.
And so they hit 220. Well, they're 220 to 260. I think they would agree that's their hard, takes so much more effort to hit 260, 280, 300. Yeah. They'll tell you, we'll see it in spots. That's our 200.
Is theirs climate related or is theirs disease related? Or I guess plant health? What is their limiting factor? Ours is climate, 100%.
Yeah.
But
we
when
get
you
way
get
too
up,
hot, way too fast.
You get up there, is it still somewhat of a climate issue or is it more of a soil or is it plant health?
I mean, I'm not from there, but from talking to those guys, so much is determined on plant date. If they can get the corn planted at the right time and they don't have delays like they did this year.
Getting their growing degree days situated.
GDUs. Yep. Don't get an early freeze. They're fighting like they're fighting weather just like we are.
So yeah,
it's, just a little
it's
different.
climate. It's just a different form of climate. Ours
Yeah.
is hot and dry. Theirs is staying warm.
There's
long
cold and
enough.
wet.
Yeah, cold and wet, and trying to get enough heat to get that corn going.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah. It's
They
all.
can have our heat.
I don't want.
I'll take their wet right now.
I hate the hot weather. Hate it.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough. I was telling my wife the other day, I said, I don't think there's a worse feeling on this earth. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there is. But in business, because farming is a business, and that's something I'd tell my younger self.
It is a
This
business.
is a business.
This is a business. It went from a way of life to, family operation, this and that. It is business now. You have to have your numbers correctly. You have to have budgets. You have to have all your numbers in line, because numbers don't lie. If your numbers are wrong, yeah, you might have some issues. But if your numbers are right, the numbers won't lie. So get your numbers in order. Get your budgets in order. It's a business. Treat it like a business.
Yep. I told Smith, I said one of the worst feelings I have felt. That's how I should word that, correcting my delivery. Not the worst feeling. One of the worst feelings I have felt is watching my crop die of a drought. And there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
There's nothing you can do about it. And I mean, usually I just go on vacation. I'm like, I got to get out of here. And and I don't know, maybe that's something a young guy needs to hear. Maybe it's something an older guy needs to hear. I don't know. We went to New Mexico last year for a week, and it was going to be 5 days. And I called Dad. I talked to you. I'm like, how's it back home? Don't come home.
No, and that's something,
if you're having a good time, don't come home. So we did. We stayed longer.
Yeah.
We stayed longer.
I would have loved to have been in New Mexico with you last year.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. A week from now, we might just. Let's
said,
go.
And that's something I'm guilty, or I guess not guilty of, but instead of going on vacation, I find things in the house to do. I find things away from the farm to do, just because I drive by several hundred acres of our operation every day, and I'm scared to look left or right. Just, tunnel vision.
Lose another leaf.
Yeah, and
the beans are turning brown in that
there's
spot.
nothing you can do about it. Just watch them die.
And when I came home, I felt a lot better, and it was just the mental reset of leaving, getting a break, just relaxing, driving around. It's okay, and come home, be like, all right. It's almost like you move on. You get detached from the emotional side of watching your crop die to
Sort of acceptance.
okay, let's get ready for harvest.
Yep.
It is what it is. I can't change it.
Yep.
Got away, cleared my head. And anyway, so yeah. Heathman, any last words of wisdom? Any last thing you'd tell your 20-year-old self that your 30-some-year-old self now would say?
Not that I can think of. Everybody says they have regrets in life, but looking back, I wouldn't change a darn thing I ever did. There's things I wish I'd have done better, but I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I would have done anything different. So I'm happy with the way things turned out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know. Bumps in the road happen for a reason.
Yep.
Just learn from it. Don't do it twice.
Yeah. You're gonna be done. Better be tough, right?
That's right. You're gonna be done. Better be tough. We're sitting here like just these old codgers.
Yeah.
Just like our old selves.
I'm just sitting here thinking about what I'd tell my son. Just things to learn, but I don't want to
slow down.
Push him too much.
Slow down. I don't know. It's something. I went to a funeral today of someone I had an extreme amount of respect for, and he built a legacy that was admirable, absolutely admirable, and a farming legacy. Mm-hmm. His sons are farming. His grandsons are back on the farm. It's not a perfect operation, but man, I mean, he loved his family. He loved his land. And that was one thing they said at the funeral. His name's Merv. And Merv always took time to say, man, that's a pretty crop. Or slow down a minute. And we get caught up in young guy syndrome. Just go. At first it was acres.
Yep.
How many acres, and then yield. And now I'm like, man, my youngest is 4 now, or excuse me, my oldest is 4.
Yeah, your oldest 4. Yeah.
And I'm like, and then there's older guys that like, my kids graduate, my kids got married, I got grandkids now.
It's a big thing we need to take from Merv is just to slow down and enjoy it.
Slow down a little bit.
Yeah. It'll happen. It'll happen very fast.
Yeah.
Just be patient.
I'm becoming much more content and doing a much better job with not as many acres instead of how many acres can I farm.
Yep.
Quit chase. That's probably something I'd tell my 20-year-old self.
There you go.
Don't chase the acres game.
Yep.
Chase the job well done and keeping a proper financial picture
Yep.
of the long game.
Be a
here.
good steward of the
Good
land.
markets don't last.
Nope, that's 100% correct.
So, anyway, Heathman, the seed goat, as Randall says, greatest of all time.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Yep, you bet. Thanks for having me.
All right, y'all. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
We got to get on Twitter. X. We got to get on X.
Do we?
Do you really?
Are we?
Wow. I need to get on that.
Boy,
I
we're
feel-
so old.
I
We
feel
aren't
terrible.
even have. We don't even have technology, or we're not advanced in the
My
technological
goodness,
world.
I feel bad now.
Oh my word! It's Twitterites.
Yep.
Mason's on there. He's a good warrior for us on there, an advocate.
Yep.
But anyway, YouTube, we got newsletter, blogs on the website.
Merch.
Oh yeah, merch.
Hey, Aaron, I need my shirts.
So anyway, appreciate you guys and see you next time. As the Ryan Gibbs says,
Farm on.
boom, over and out.